Hello, friends. This is episode 894 of the Juicebox Podcast. Good news, Erika Forsyth is back. Erika, of course, a licensed marriage and family therapist from California. You can learn more about her at erikaforsyth.com. Today, the conversation between Erika and I begins with the idea of fault. People wanting to know why something happened. Why did I get diabetes? Why did my child get diagnosed? That sort of thing. The conversation grows from there. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. If you have type 1 diabetes or are the caregiver of someone with type 1 and a U.S. resident, please complete the survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. This simple survey takes about 10 minutes to do, and your answers move diabetes research forward. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Go complete the survey, please. And don't forget, if you want 35% off your entire order at CozyEarth.com, use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by AG1 from Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit my link, athleticgreens.com/juicebox. Today's show is also sponsored by BetterHelp. You can get 10% off your first month of therapy at betterhelp.com/juicebox. I was wondering if we could very specifically talk about the fault that I hear people talk about. My child has type 1 diabetes and I have a thyroid thing, so it's my fault. Or my husband's aunt has RA and now my kid has blah, blah, blah. It's his fault. Or, you know what I mean? Like the fault, the fault that gets addressed. It seems so, it just seems like it happens to everybody. Like, I don't think I've ever met a person who hasn't thought, why did this happen? Whose fault is it? And it's a strange way to think to me, but it's so common. So I wanted to ask you about it.
Yes, it is common. I think as parents, I think you said this a long time ago, one of our first episodes, that, when as a parent, you don't have your child and think, when is my child going to get sick? Or when is my child going to be diagnosed with a chronic illness? So you have this mindset and hope that your child will be healthy. And then the first time the child gets injured, or the first time that your child gets sick, it's surprising and shocking. But then we also automatically, as parents, I think, want to find responsibility in ourselves or somebody else or something else, because it's painful, it's shocking, it's surprising, and you're not starting out as a parent with that mindset.
So I can almost get wanting to blame somebody else. That almost makes sense to me. But why do people relish in it being their fault? That happens. Like, they want it to, like, want it's the wrong word. I don't know where I'm going with this exactly. There are just a lot of people who want to tell you, this is my fault. But I've said it a number of different ways. I've never once heard somebody say, oh, you have blue eyes, that's my fault. They take credit for that, right? Like, oh, you get the blue eyes from me. You get that cheekbone from me. You get that jawline from me. Oh, you fart after dinner. That's your mother's fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why does it, like, why do you think that's important to people? That's my question, I guess.
Important. That's an interesting word choice. I think it might be their tendency or nature. When things feel out of control or chaotic, people sometimes have kind of an automatic default way of thinking or believing. And for some, it's, I'm going to blame myself, I'm going to shame myself, or I'm going to blame or shame others. But this focus on, hey, life feels chaotic. I feel out of control. And so my automatic, this is how I function, is I'm going to blame myself and try and find reason, right? Like I think people want to find an explanation. And when there is no true, explanation, it may be just their nature to place blame on themselves.
So do you think that's something that everyone has, like, innately? Or do you think there are some people who would never have this conversation? Like, do you think there are some people who would never once think, like, oh, whose fault is this? They're like, my wife put it on herself because there were autoimmune things on her side of the family. And I'm adopted, so of course we don't have a ton of knowledge, so I get to pretend that there's no way any of this would be for my side of the family, which is ridiculous. But I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I've never once cared, and I do think you are really getting to know me, because I said important, and you were like, that's an interesting word. It's an interesting word because I don't understand why anybody cares. I really don't. I don't know how this would, like, when I see people online put so much effort into trying to find out why, even the conversations, forget like whose fault, like the conversations about like, well, I need to know what happened. Right? Like that's fat. That one's like,
yes.
Look, oh my God. Well, they got COVID and then they got diabetes. It had to have been that. Okay. You still have diabetes. Or, I mean, my daughter had hand, foot, mouth. Then she got type 1. Mm-hmm. We assume that's what it was, but we weren't like Columboing around trying to figure it out. It just all sort of fit, The amount of people I see put a lot of effort into that. Like, I need to know what happened. I don't understand that either.
I think a similar analogy could be, so let's say there's milk spilled on the carpet. Mm-hmm. One parent might look at that and say, all right, who spilled the milk? Who did it? You're going to have to come here and clean it up and fix it. But I want to know how did this happen and how did this get here? And then a different parent might say, oh my gosh, there's milk spilled on the rug, carpet, whatever. Let's clean it up. Let's move on. We got to hurry up. Let's clean this up and move on. And so I think it's the same analogy of, wondering, is it important to find out how the milk got there, or is it more important just to clean it up and move forward? Mm-hmm. And I think that might be from your nature, from your upbringing, from your, all the automatic thinking. It might be important to some people. And I think it would be hard to make a generalization, but I could generalize that there are people who want to know how it got there, and there are people who just want to clean it up.
Do you need to know so that you can ascribe fault, so that you have a place to focus your anger? Because I still don't understand what happens once you know.
Right.
And by the way, you know why I love you? I have 2 words written down on my whiteboard in front of me. 2, and nothing else for this whole conversation. It says, move on. Because I thought, well, this conversation, when you and I get done hashing it out, we're going to need to tell people, how do you move forward from this? Mm-hmm, and then you just said it. I was like, this is why I picked Erika. And so,
well, thank you.
No, please. Thank you. Are you kidding? But seriously, like, once I know, okay, let's say I can figure it out. My daughter, I definitely took her to a ball pit at a McDonald's when she was blah, blah, blah. And she bumped into a little kid with a snotty nose that gave her hand, foot, and mouth. And then 6 weeks later, she had type 1 diabetes. I know that now. So what? Like, what do I do with that? Like, I don't know why I would mine up all that information. It doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't change anything.
So someone might say, it's a more ascribing blame. So you could say, if only we didn't go to the McDonald's, to that ball pit, and she didn't get hand foot. If only. So kind of living in the past, trying to make sense of why things happened, going back to the blame and shame game that some people really struggle with, and it's painful. And working out, as you said, is it the emotions that you're trying to work out? The anger, the sadness, the confusion, the shock. So what do you do with all of that? You can let it out, or are you trying to make sense of it and say, shame on me. We went to the McDonald's and she got sick. If only we hadn't done that, she wouldn't have gotten hand, foot, mouth, and she wouldn't have had type 1. That type of thinking.
I mean, I get that type of thinking, but I don't get where they don't add the next part, which is that something else just would have happened. Like, it's not like it's type 1 diabetes. It's not a quarter on the ground. Like, you didn't find the only one. Like, it was coming, one way or the other, right? By the way, I made up the whole McDonald's in the ball pit thing just in case people were wondering. But I just thought of the most disgusting things I could think of, and ball pits was right at the top.
I was going to say I hadn't heard that story before.
No. I completely made that up. When you recounted it, I was like, oh God, she thinks I'm telling a story from my actual life.
I did.
But so I don't understand. Like, okay, now I know. Let's say it's the kid at the ball pit. I can be mad at that, or I can blame myself for going. But I don't know where that gets us. Like, why does my brain not let me want to be mad like that? I can't, even when my wife's a real asshole, and Erika, this could happen, I never have a desire to be mad at her. Never. I'm not mad at my kids ever. I'm not, I don't know. Like, and I grew up with people who were mad at each other constantly. And I just think, I saw enough of it to go, okay, well, this is not a valuable use of time. I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to morph and change, and things are going to happen out of your control. I don't know that being angry about any of it is valuable. And I'm sure I've done things wrong. Like, I mean, I'm more than sure. I mean, I could probably sit down and make a list, right? But if I look back on my life, I think, well, I've done a bunch of things wrong, sure, but my kids are here. Everybody's warm, safe, eating. What, was it going to go perfectly? Like, was I never going to make a mistake? Like, that doesn't make sense to me either. I don't know. All these episodes are just about what I don't understand.
Well, I think what you just said in the middle of that was somewhere along the line, you learned that holding anger or trying to place blame wasn't helping, right? For some, it might feel like it's serving a function of going back to the control piece of trying to make sense of why things happened. And if you're trying to place blame on yourself or others or other outside forces, you're trying to figure out, how could I have controlled these variables? Could I have controlled these influences, environmental stressors, all these things to prevent and protect my child from getting diabetes?
Yeah.
And so I think it's a process of letting go of that, which is really painful, that we aren't in control of everything.
That is it, right? Like, that if there's something about me and how I grew up that lets me think that I am a piece of dust floating through the universe that one day just won't exist anymore. And I'm completely okay with that. And everyone else wants there to be, well, not everyone else, but a lot of people want there to be big reasons for things. Like that I guess I didn't consider, but I'm okay being meaningless. If that makes any sense. Like, it's okay with me. Like, I even think of, like, if you were to say, when people die, this is horrible. I'm using the basic example I can think of. When people die, I think, oh gosh, that's sad for the people who knew them. But I've never felt sad about it. Like, if a person dies that I don't know, I go, oh, what a tragedy in their sphere, right? It's meaningless to me. Like, there's statistics. How many people die every day? That person was one of those people. If it would have been my mom, then it's horrifying. If it's me, I guess I don't care. But I guess the people around me would know. And okay, good, right? I just don't see why. I can't make sense of why it matters. Because, oh God, am I going to say something like me? I'm going to say something deep that's going to sound stupid. I don't think anything matters to some degree or another. Like, I think you just do the best you can, and you help people as much as you can, and you garner as much happiness and love out of life as possible, and then ride that as long as you can, and then, yeah, that's it. Like, well, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know how this got here.
Yeah, we went. We're getting into some deeper topics. I think perhaps, and maybe generalizing out of that is, what how do you find purpose in your life? Do you have a belief in a higher being? Do you find what is your purpose in life? And perhaps some of that line of thinking, is there afterlife? All of that, what is my purpose in life, basically, and why am I here? And if you have that, maybe your mindset is nothing matters. You're going to do the best you can, live, love, and serve, right? Others, excuse me. Then it doesn't matter to you why things happen or how things happen. You're just going to face them one moment at a time.
I feel like everything's that way, though. Like, you're on a step, you can't see the step above you. It doesn't mean it's not there, right? Because you might get to it at some point. So if you asked me, you almost just did, do I believe in a higher power? I would say no, unless there is one. And then I definitely would. But for this moment, do I think if I went up the next step, I'd see Buddha, God, Hare Krishna, or whatever? I don't think I would. But if I did, I'd be like, well, that's really cool. And then, but I don't think it matters because I try to live my life as if they do exist. So it doesn't matter to me if they exist or don't exist because I'm doing what I would be doing if I believed in them anyway. If that makes sense. But I also don't think I'm smart enough to think that I know. So, I mean, I'll be the first one. If I shut my eyes and open them back up and I'm standing in front of gates, I'll be like, get out of here. This is nuts. I'd be like, hey, everybody. I didn't think this was here. Like, I would definitely, and then I'd be like, right on, like, let me see what's up. Like, and that'd be it. Like, if I don't say that there's not a God, I say that if you made me choose, if you told me, Scott, you have $5,000 in the whole world, and I know the answer to this question, you have to bet your $5,000. I'm going to go, I haven't seen any existence of God. I'm going to bet against it. And then if it was there, I'd say, oh, wow, I was wrong about that. I'm not angry if there is one. I think that'd be terrific. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see it, so I don't spend time thinking about it. And what's the point of this is that you can live like it's not there, but live like it is there at the same time. So you have the freedom of not being beholden to something. Like, maybe what am I saying? You can act right for the sake of acting right. Like, I don't think there's no rules that are making me help people with a podcast, for example, or that, I don't know, make me hold a door for somebody, or all the other things that I think I do that I probably don't go noticed outside of my bubble during the day. I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't expect to talk about this.
Okay. So what I think we got here by, what drives you, what is your purpose and what matters. And in your mindset and belief system is that you're doing the best you can. You're doing what you can each day, but you're not looking backwards too much, and you're not looking forward too much either. You're kind of you're going moment to moment, doing the best you can.
I'm well-intended. I don't have, I try not to regret things. And I just think, have good intentions, follow them as closely as you can. Doesn't always go right, and keep moving. So if I did take Arden somewhere that got her sick and she got diabetes when she was 2, but if I just didn't go there that day, she might not have gotten it until she was 5. I mean, that's a lot of like assumption. You know what I mean? And so sort of probably why I brought the God thing up. Like, I'm not going to spend time making those assumptions. If they're true, that's fine. I mean, if I get to the end and somebody pulls out like a dossier and they're like, yeah, no kidding, here, you did take her to the thing that got her sick. And it turns out had you not gone there that day, it wouldn't have happened till she was 8 years old. I would be like, oh, well, that sucks. But I don't know what to do about that. You know what I mean? Like, everything to me is about what do you do next?
Right.
That just seems to be what life is to me.
Right. And so with this fault piece around, why do parents often find fault in themselves when their child is diagnosed or gets sick or injured? I think connecting to either the God, higher power, control piece, who Are you in control of your own destiny?
Mm-hmm.
Can you protect your children from everything? Can you prevent all harm? I think we can't. And as parents, that is what we're learning each day. You know, as our children, we let them out into the world and they fall and you know, scratch their knee is the first moment. You're like, oh, I can't protect my child from everything. But you're not gonna sit there and say, gosh, I shouldn't have let them go to the park.
Yeah.
But I think on this grander scale, when maybe we can connect some dots to autoimmune connection, or we can connect some dots on larger, you know, some traits or, you know, genetic markers. There's connection, but I think the fault piece is tricky, right? We can say, well, of course, yeah, there is some connection, some genetic markers and lineage through these autoimmune issues through our you know, grandparents and aunts and uncles. But did we control that? Did we create our own, you know, genetic markers?
Well, yeah, because you could start getting really deep into bizarre thoughts. Like, for instance, I'm not saying I track my kids, but I can see where my kids' phones are. So last night, I could see Arden moving at a speed that indicated she was in a car on a highway. And she's away at school. She's 14 hours by car away from here. And I did not think, oh God, what if I saw the dot stopped abruptly and I realized Arden was in a car accident? What would I do? And I thought I would call 911 and then get on a plane. Not, I shouldn't have let her go to college. You know what I mean? Because the truth is I might not make it. Like Erika, I might leave here when we're done and fall down the stairs. And then I'm old.
I hope not.
That'll totally kill me if I fall down the stairs. Okay, so like there's no way I'll be able to hold up that. So I fall down the stairs. Do you think my 80-year-old mom somewhere is going, oh, I shouldn't have let him have a family? He shouldn't have, if he wouldn't have got married and made those babies and, you know, bought a place to live, and then he wouldn't have stairs to fall down because we were broke. We didn't have stairs anywhere. we lived on one level, Erika. So it's like, that would be a ridiculous thing to do. So I just don't, there's no way I would do that. If I'm just going to come out and say something ridiculous right now. If Arden died right now in a car accident, I wouldn't regret anything that happened to her. And I try to point as much as I can to the first year of the podcast to a woman who came on. Her name was Linda Hauver. And she came on because her son, who had type 1, died in college. He got sick and I think he fell asleep and he just died in his sleep. And it was it was the first year of the podcast. Like it was a horrible conversation. I have chills thinking about it now. I don't remember anybody's name. This woman has a different name. It sticks out to me like this. But during the conversation, she said, I don't regret anything because he lived for, 21 really amazing years. And would I have preferred him to live 3 times as long? And she said, yes, but not if it was if we were limiting his life. And I thought, and that's just sort of how I think about it. Like, do the best you can today, have good intentions. Hopefully you won't fall down the stairs. And if you do, you can't look backwards, right? You just have to sort of keep going. Hey guys, just jumping in to remind you that one of our sponsors, BetterHelp, is offering 10% off your first month of therapy when you use my link, betterhelp.com/juicebox. That's betterhelp.com/juicebox. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service. It is 100% online, boasts over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists, and you can talk to them however you want, text, chat, phone, or on video. You can actually message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. BetterHelp.com/juicebox. Save 10% on your first month. One of the first things I do every morning is take AG1 from Athletic Greens. You could do this as well. You could build a foundation for better health with AG1. Use my link, athleticgreens.com/juicebox to get started today. When you do, you'll also unlock an offer to receive a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. That's on top of your AG1. Come on. AG1 supports immunity, boosts energy, helps recovery, and promotes gut health. I take it because I'm afraid that my diet doesn't quite include all of the vitamins and nutrients that it should. and AG1 helps me to feel better every day. I tried a handful of other green drinks before coming to AG1. One of them, I won't mention the name, tasted like what I imagined feet would taste like if you made it into a drink. AG1, however, goes down nice and easy, and my palate is hard to get along with, so that really is saying something. AG1 from Athletic Greens contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anythings. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. Of course, to make it easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do to get that offer is visit my link, athleticgreens.com/juicebox. Once again, athleticgreens.com/juicebox. Links in the show notes. Links at juiceboxpodcast.com to AG1 and all of the sponsors.
I imagine that she probably went through a grief process, though, in that to get to arrive at a place to say that. And I think, not looking back and placing blame on ourselves as parents or, as caregivers or trying to find fault, that's all part of the grieving process. Yeah. So maybe I don't know if you did that a little bit when she was diagnosed, when Arden was originally diagnosed, but I know that is really common for caregivers that I meet with, gosh, how could we have prevented it? How did we miss the signs? Or
I thought about
this is our fault. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought I'm a stay-at-home dad, right? I thought what did I do that put us in this position? Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, that's silly. And then I didn't think about it anymore. But I get the idea. I do think I had a thought earlier. Where is it at right now? I wish I could access it in my head. That being able to, let me see if I can talk myself to it. Being able to find the cause and point to it, it does offer relief, I guess. And it's the control piece. Like at least that wasn't, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. But then if I were to argue somebody out of that, I'd say, well, you picked the guy or the girl that you got married to and made the baby. And there was something about your juice and his juice that made a baby that got diabetes. So it turns out if you would have just gone out with the guy from 11th grade instead of the guy from 12th grade, none of this might have happened. We can do that forever. It's not valuable. Mm-hmm. And people get caught in it badly. And it ruins years of people's lives. And that's why I brought it up, because I watch people do it every day.
Yes. Or I can hear conversely, I thought I was doing everything right, living healthy, eating healthy, exercising, keeping my mind. This is for maybe the more LADA people with LADA who I work with, saying I was doing everything right. How did this happen? Mm-hmm. And so it's still trying to find, I think the relief, trying to find reasons, explanations as to how something painful and sudden can happen. Yeah. I think, but human nature, we want to find an explanation for hard things. Yeah. And part of the pain is most often we can't find clear explanations. And then that forces us to process, am I in control? Why do bad things happen? And how am I going to face with this quote bad thing, this hard thing? Yeah,
you're not in control of anything. Not big picture stuff. Because if you date, I don't know, if you married this person, but you could have married the next one or the one before, you don't know what would have happened when those two people got together. Who knows? It's all about. Listen, I know it's an audio medium, but my children are so much more athletic and attractive than I am that there are days when I'm like, they're definitely like the mailmans. You know what I mean? There's no way those are my kids. And if you would have looked at me and my wife and been like, hey, you'll probably give birth to a girl who looks like a model and a kid who played college baseball, I'd have been like, that's not going to happen. And then it did, which is crazy. think of all the famous hot people whose kids are ugly. Sorry, I know this.
Oh my gosh.
like seriously, they tried to control it. Super hot guy marries super hot girl, kid comes out homely, and you go, what else could I have done? Erika's not going to agree with any of this, but trust me, it's a great example for our conversation. Like, those are people who they tried and it still didn't work out. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't know when you're 18 years old and you come by and your girlfriend, you're picking your girlfriend up and the mom is sitting over in the corner and she's rubbing her hands going, oh, my hands hurt again. You don't know that's like, oh, that's an autoimmune disease. Get the hell out of here. like, don't make a baby with this one. And like you're not going to know that. And to put that on yourself afterwards. Also, I think of this for all the people who torture themselves about it. Ask them if they could go back in time and not have the baby. Would they do that? And no one says yes to that. Mm-hmm. No one ever. I ask people constantly. No one ever says yes. Like not just get rid of the diabetes. Just the person just doesn't exist anymore. And if the answer to that isn't yes, then I don't know what we're talking about then. Because if it's not that bad, then this is just what you got. And here we go, you know? Does that make sense?
I think one of the myths of, living in the land of if only, right? If only I had married this person, or if only we hadn't gone to McDonald's, whatever. Mm-hmm. The myth of that thinking is that the if only is going to be better than the reality you're facing now.
Right.
And that's how we, as you said, torture ourselves of thinking, if only I had gone left instead of right, then this wouldn't have happened. But if I had gone left, then that could have happened and that could have been worse.
Yeah.
But we trick ourselves in thinking that it's the alternative is better.
And not only that, but then it sticks you in a position. Like there's no moving on then. Like the amount of people who I've heard tell me, if in their 40s and 50s, oh, I think back to when I was 18. And this is like, I don't know, we're not supposed to talk like this, but I think back to when I was 18 and my mom said I was fat. And I think I would kill to look like that now. Like that feeling, but it sticks with you. The first time it says it, your mom says, oh, are you wearing that? Yes. Really? You think this? Now you're stuck, right? And then you move forward 5 years and 10 pounds, and you look back and you go, oh, what was I doing? And then you move forward 20 years and 10 more pounds. You look back, oh my God, I was, but in the meantime, you're the one not leaving the space. And you just create these hazy patches of your life where you're not fully being yourself, busy trying to get back to step one all the time. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. I see the connection to what you just said, of just holding yourself in a spot over and over and over again, instead of getting through it or past it or around it or whatever you have to do to let it go, because it will follow you right into your grave. And then what do you do if you close your eyes and they don't open back up again? Like, all that time's wasted then. And I'm believing, I'm seeing this happen with people around diabetes, type 2 and type 1. Just, what did I do? What did I eat? What did I sneeze on? Why did I marry this person? Like, why did I you got to let it go. I mean, it's just,
yes. And the lies that if only I hadn't done this or that, then I would be happy or happier, right? That is a distortion, a lie that we believe. And it's ultimately preventing you from processing the true feelings in those moments of anger, sadness, shock, disbelief, all of those initial grief emotions post diagnosis or any other trauma that you're experiencing. And so how do you move on, going back to your way of your kind of mindset, the milk spilled on the rug of, okay, how do we clean this up? How do we move forward? Well, we can be frustrated. Maybe there's going to be a stain there. Maybe you're going to be sad. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. but what we cover that primary emotion with the blame and shame. So allowing yourself that space to be like, gosh, I'm so disappointed that this happened. I'm so angry. And I do want to find an explanation, but I'm ultimately, how do I get to a place of peace without having an explanation or without realizing that no one's really at fault?
It's also very doable because when I was very young, I mean, I wouldn't be making the same podcast I am now, right? Like, so I'm a different person now. And as luck may have it for this conversation, this weekend, I took a small chicken and seasoned it and put it in the oven and had a little liquid in it. And it was almost done cooking, Erika, when the glass pan that it was in exploded.
Oh my gosh.
And I have to tell you that about 25 years ago, the pan would have exploded and I would have cursed for 20 minutes. Every bad word I could think of, I would have cleaned it up while I was cursing. I would have cursed each little piece of the glass, everything. I just looked and I went, huh, that's crazy. And then I pulled the chicken out of it, put it off to the side. My wife like, what are you going to do with that chicken? I'm like, I'm going to check it for glass. I'm still eating it if there's and I sopped up all the water and I cleaned up the oven and I cleaned up the glass and I vacuumed everything up and mopped everything up and checked the chicken and it didn't have any glass on it. I put it in a different pan, not a glass one, and I shoved it back in the oven and then I ate it later. And nothing's different in the end, whether I would have yelled or screamed or been upset or thought like, because can I tell you something? I hate that we own glass cookware. I've hated it for 20 years. I've never said anything about it. I thought it was a misstep and it took 20 years for me to be right, Erika, but I was right. But there was no reason for me to say it. There was no reason for me to be upset by it. You know how many chickens I put in that thing? It didn't break. So I was like, yeah, all right. Fair's fair. I don't know.
So you didn't go around and say, aha.
No, and that's not what I would have said. Back then I would have been like, motherfucker. Like, goddamn chicken. Fucking mess. Son of a bitch. Like, why me? Like, but I just don't feel that way anymore. Like I don't know why. I mean, I think I outlined it loosely while we've been talking, but
yes,
I mean, I grew up poorly. A lot of stuff went wrong. I had very low expectations for anything. And there's actually part of me that thinks that helps when the chicken blew up. It did feel like it blew up, by the way. It just went boom. And I was like, wow. I was like, huh, okay. Like my bar is so low that I was just like, if I still get to eat this chicken, this day's still okay for me. like, you know, it's just, I don't know why we think everything's supposed to go right. That's interesting to me. Like that feeling that no matter what we're involved in or who we're involved with or what the situation is, that it's supposed to be, I don't know, that I'm supposed to be living like I'm a professional athlete on Instagram. Like, and if I'm not, then everything's a mess. And I just don't, I've seen it go back to, I've brought this up on here before because it was so like impactful to me. Like one of the very first professional football players whose contract was made public took him from like beloved person to hated in a city. He had to leave because people found out he was making $8 million that year. And it ruined people. They were like, I can't be around this anymore. Like he doesn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this much money. Like that kind of thing. Somehow along the way, it's turned into something different. Where now like it's almost like we fetishize people. The more money they make, the more we like to hear about it. And I don't know if people hear that and think, oh, that can be me one day. And that's hopeful. You know, there's that saying about the best thing about America and the worst thing about America is that everybody believes the American dream. And I wonder that about like, forget America for a second, like life. Like, does everybody have a picture of perfection they think exists and they just have to find the way to it and then it's theirs? And then so every day I wake up and I haven't ascended, it's because I made a mistake, because the path is really there, because the truth is the American dream is for whoever it works out for. It's not everybody's, and you didn't do it right. That's not what it really means. You know, the American dream means that in America, I'm putting quotes around this. I don't mean to get political, but nothing is supposed to stop you from ascending. You're supposed to have a clear path to it. It doesn't mean that the man who I saw today while I was driving down the street, who looked up at every car and went, "Yo!" as it drove by, he's not getting the dream. Erika, that's not happening for him. And I don't know why. I don't know what has happened to him. It seemed like he might have been mentally unstable. But that's not the point. The point is like there's no path for him to get to the dream. And I wonder if everybody doesn't just think it's there. They just haven't found it yet. And I wonder if that translates back to health. Does everybody think if they just did everything right, they'd be 95 years old on the news smoking cigarettes, talking about how they've lived this long? You know what I mean?
I think there might be some people who think that. I think most people have hope, hope for their dreams to come true. And so then everyone's dreams are different. But I think most people get up every day because they have some sort of hope and purpose. Do they all realize their dreams? No, for all the various factors and variables of life. But I think most people have hope that they might. And then you said, do they have hope that their life will be perfection? And I think what does perfection look like for each person is different. Is perfection your bank account, your status, your emotional and physical health? What is perfection, right? But I think that sense of free will and freedom to make those choices is one of the blessings of our country. What impedes that? Then going back to our general question of, is it up to the control piece? Is it in my own control? If it is all in my control, then if I make a mistake, then it's my fault, right? I think that's, so if I have this dream and this hope to get there, but my mindset is that it's up to me to get there, then any mistake along the way, physical, emotional, mental, or otherwise, is my fault if I'm ultimately in control.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It's just a shame that that's obviously not the truth. That's all. Like it would be nice if everybody could believe that they're doing their best and they'll get up as many steps as they can, and each one is a success. And it doesn't matter if you're the guy like who cleans the balls in the ball pit, or at the McDonald's, or if you're whatever your idea of like making it is. Like it doesn't matter. It's like it's the best for you, and that really is important. Like just doing the best you can for you. And there's no fault there then. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying earlier, is that I don't have any expectations. Like I get up every day. I just do the best I can. I mean, I do have some basic rules. I do try to help people. I try to treat people the way that I would like to be treated. I do treat people the way I would like to be treated. I try not to lie. And I think that's a very important distinction, because there are times when lying is important. And so I try not to lie. I don't do it as a knee-jerk reaction, like just to make things easier or anything like that. But there are moments when I'm like, nobody benefits from this. It's just going to hurt somebody. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that out loud. And that's it. But I mean, I honestly don't have any more rules than that. Just try not to lie and treat people the way you want to be treated. I mean, I would tell you about the podcast that I never imagined I would do something for a living that would help people and pay my bills and that I would enjoy. And that's a pretty big trifecta for me. And so I don't sit around every day thinking like, well, what else can I squeeze out of this? Like, it just doesn't occur to me like that. I want it to reach more people. And I know that if it reached more people, I would probably make more money. and I would probably then be able to do other things. But if it just stayed like this, that would be a lot, actually. Like, I don't know how to, like, why would I think of this as a failure? And it is interesting that financially, the way business works, especially here, you see it in the stock market all the time. Like, there's these companies who are like, they're doing fantastic, but they did a projection. They're like, we projected 16%, but we only grew 14%, and their stock falls because they're losers. And you're like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense, and it just feels like everybody has that pressure, almost like we've been commingled, like human beings and entities and ideas. We're judging everything on the same level at this point, instead of just saying, I'm a compacted bunch of like dust, and I'm somehow have the ability to think a little more than other things on the planet that are made out of dust. And we're just thinking too much sometimes about things that have no answers. I know I think that sometimes about therapy too. Like sometimes I'm like, just try not to care so much. Like it doesn't matter, like some things matter, but some things don't. That's all. All right.
Well, and when we're trying to find reasons or blame or fault, maybe there is blame or fault that should be placed in certain situations. But when we get stuck there, it becomes problematic. So even if we can point to grandma and great grandpa and the lineage down to how our child now has type 1, we have found we have sort of a loose explanation, and then we can practice grace, to ourselves and say, well, you know what, this is okay. I love the partner that I chose to have this child with, or however you have this child, adopted or otherwise. Now we have this child and they have diabetes, and I know why, or I don't know why, but I'm just going to practice grace and love on myself. And I'm going to model that for my child and not point any fingers anymore at this point.
The pointing fingers it's forgiveness for forgiveness sake, without having to say something needs to be forgiven. Like, so that's kind of the important part, right? Is just to say, no matter what may or may not have happened here, I forgive it. Like that's grace, right? That's just like, let's just let it go and move forward, or we'll get stuck here forever. And, you'll live your whole life in your kitchen with your mom saying that those pants are too tight and you can't get past it then.
That's right.
Right. I kept thinking forgiveness, then you said grace. And I thought, okay, this is right. That's crazy.
And it's hard to do if that hasn't been modeled for you. If your mom or dad or parent figure has not modeled that, it's hard. So that's why you might find yourself as a parent now not knowing how to do that.
Can you practice on something small? I'm being serious. Like, could you pick something could you just say, like, there's something in my life that I'm pissed off about. It really has no, like, I can see this has no impact on anything, and I'm just going to let it go. Like, what's the saying, right? You don't forgive people for them. You do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. You unburden yourself.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's hard. And oftentimes I think we think that it's just going to happen, and it's a feeling that's going to come over us. And sometimes that happens, but most often forgiveness is a choice that you are making. And then the feeling comes later. But I think we get stuck in that waiting. Well, I'm just going to wait till I feel like I want to forgive myself, or I feel like I want to forgive him for doing that. But often we have to decide.
Okay.
And that's hard. That's really hard to do, but it can be done.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm up against then. All right. This is a good place to stop. I do want to say something at the end though. I get to look at you while we're doing this, and you are like one of my, like, you think like I do. You and I don't, let me get to it. You and I don't think the same. Our process is the same. Like, I watch you go into your head when you're talking. It's interesting. Like, I think if I forced you to keep eye contact with me, you wouldn't be as clear. Like, you sort of go away into your head and you speak out of your heart. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah.
And I do that too. Like, so when I'm talking, you see me like look away from you, right? Yeah. And I just realized that today, like, you do the same thing. That's really interesting. Oh, it's lovely because I never get the feeling that you are reaching into a bag of tricks and pulling out canned responses. Like, I'm a lot. I talk fast. I say things that don't seem connected to each other right away. And you're actually listening to me.
I try.
And I can see you keeping mental notes in your head. Like, I can see you go, say this when it go to this point when he's done talking. And then, like, I'm watching you. It's very impressive. I'm just very impressed. Always.
Oh, thank you.
No, seriously.
Thank you, Scott.
No, people should see you for their therapy needs. In what? California? Hold on. Let me see if I know off the top of my head. California, Washington State? No. Which ones?
Oregon. Utah. And Florida.
Right now you can do those virtually.
Yes, those 4.
At erikaforsyth.com.
Yes, thank you.
Do you do it in video? Will they get to see you like disappear into your head before you talk?
Yes, well, I mean, maybe they'll be looking for that.
Oh my! I would love it. Because I believe when I say something to you and you respond, I don't think she's just saying what I want to hear. I don't think she's just saying what she thinks about this topic. Like, I feel like we're having a real conversation, and I think it's just very important. And it doesn't always happen. I interview people. I mean, you and I are different. We talk a lot, right? And but I interview people who are just there to say something, and they're just waiting for the spot in the conversation where they can get out their thought. And it's not like that with you. It's very nice, actually. So,
I appreciate that, Scott.
I do
Thank
too.
You.
Actually, it's what am I supposed to say when somebody thanks you? Oh, you're welcome. Right? I'm trying to be evolved too.
You are.
Oh, you think so?
Yes. Every day.
I'm not sure about that. I am trying my best. And I guess just to wrap it up for everybody, if you can take it from me, a person who's probably spoken to 1,000 people who have diabetes or love somebody with diabetes, it just, this part you're stuck in is not valuable, and it's never going to lead anywhere. Like, you are just spinning in circles. And if it takes you to make something up to forgive, or to forgive a thing that you can't even put a face to just to get past it, I think you'd have a lot more happiness and a lot less anxiety. And I mean, the amount of people that just keep coming on this show that describe themselves as anxious, it feels never ending sometimes. It's really, really interesting. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, BetterHelp. You can get 10% off your first month of therapy with my link, betterhelp.com/juicebox. That's betterhelp.com/juicebox. If you've been thinking about speaking with someone, this is a great way to do it on your terms. betterhelp.com/juicebox. You can get started today and every day with AG1 from Athletic Greens by going to athleticgreens.com/juicebox. Don't forget, you're going to get that free vitamin D and the travel packs with your first order. athleticgreens.com/juicebox. And check out Erika at erikaforsyth.com. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.